Welcome everyone to another episode of the Innovative Insights series. Today, I am so excited to talk about really getting more out of your operations and using intelligent data to drive your business forward. So without further ado, let's dive right in and I'm going to introduce our guests today. So first, Will, do you want to give us a quick background on yourself and what you're working on over at Marketplace Valet?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Will Land, and I'm a co-founder here at Marketplace Valet. Marketplace Valet is a full-service Amazon and marketplace agency. Anywhere from logistics to content creation, ad management, and so forth. I've been selling on marketplaces since 2001, and it's been a fun and exciting ride ever since.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially past 18 months. So
Oh
Chad,
yeah.
for anyone who isn't familiar with Skubana or yourself, do you mind giving the quick background?
Yeah, absolutely. First generation merchants selling on Amazon, similar to Will. I've been doing this for a really long time. And out of my pain of running my own D2C brand called Think Crucial, we started Skubana out of that pain and started selling to other brands and merchants that had similar profile of pain that we did. Also very involved. I wrote a book, Cheaper, Easier, Direct, which is centered largely around winning D2C, along with Prosper Show, which I was on the board of, and we sold not so long ago to the Internet Retailer Conference. So I've been in this for a long time. And so what Skubana is, and Will knows best because he's a mutual customer of both of ours, Dacity and Skubana. We essentially are a inventory management platform that has order management capabilities with profit diagnostics all built into one platform. Very similar to kind of like what Shopify did to Magento. We're really focused on doing that to NetSuite and making operations much easier. It doesn't have to be painful and hard.
Perfect. I think that's a great segue also into what we're going to talk today about leveraging the data that's captured through all those marketplaces and all those channels to make operations easier and to scale up the business. So Will, do you want to give us a quick just overview on the challenges that you all were facing and kind of what led you to start building out this, what we'll call marketplace analytics suite?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, internally we call it 3P360. And so basically we had a need. We manage quite a few clients and their fulfillment and Amazon and other marketplaces. And what really we needed is a way to show clients their data through a portal individually so that they can come in, see their business holistically. So you can log into Amazon and say, how did Amazon do today? Or log into eBay and say, look at my sales, or log into your Shopify. But we wanted to bring that all together in one dashboard. And that's what we've done this year through 3P360. It's just a full service PIM inventory and sales tool that kind of gives you that holistic view of what you're doing. And it was created by Dacity, and with obviously with the help of Skubana's API. That's kind of our big rollout for 2021.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Two quick follow-up questions. For anyone who isn't familiar with a PIM, what does that stand for?
So it's a product information management tool. So think of when you own a brand and you need your images, you need your titles, you need any documentation, you need your DIMs, what's your cost? It's a place where all this information is stored in one database that you can go and access and download quickly, integrate to an API to spread that data out for other marketplaces.
Awesome. And then second question is, I know you mentioned Amazon. Are there any other marketplaces that you all were tracking through the 3P system?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, our clients enjoy, eBay, Walmart, and then we're connected to about 16 or 17 other Amazon sites internationally.
Very cool. So Chad, just to quickly dive into the tech side. So I know that you all are working with a lot of marketplaces, and then you also have your own marketplace, which is kind of how we built that original integration. So can you just walk through like how at a high level that all works, how you all are capturing and storing that data so that awesome deep dives into all that marketplace data can be visualized exactly like
I would just on a high level, we're sort of ripping out a page of the Shopify playbook, which is really, we want people to be able to add strength to our platform, and we can't be everything to everybody. So the way to do that is to have an app ecosystem, which Dacity is involved with, where they build into our API and allow us to extend and add strength to our platform with the click of a button. And so that's why, when we first went to the Shopify Unite conference and they had launched in, their app ecosystem, we were like, okay, this is something we need to focus on. We have a very small team. We want to shake what our mama gave us. We wanted to be the best we can possibly be at operations, but we know that to go super deep into the kind of data that Will really needed for his clients of his business, there needed to be more to support that, and that's really what it comes down to. And a lot of merchants and brands, very similar to Marketplace Valet, they're wanting. I would say in general, right? Merchants and brands. Going direct to consumer is not enough anymore, right? We've had to sort of move away from being sellers on Amazon, for example, which is where I got my start, and I think Will did too, into becoming advertisers and becoming a lot more smart about the way we deploy our dollars so we get a nice return on investment, because Amazon's really good at telling you what you make, but they're really bad at telling you what you keep. And so we've had to become a lot smarter about it, and this is one great way that we've been able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So Will, just going right on that thought, what are you all really diving into? What is the important information that you're pulling out of all of those marketplaces that really is having a meaningful impact on the business?
Sure. So I think, one of the most relevant things, at least with Amazon, is when we look at virtual bundles. With getting a lot of this data out, we're able to see what the best selling cross sellers are. And believe me, when I say that, it's not the things that you would normally think that, pair well together. When we get the data that shows that someone bought a bracelet and they bought a necklace, that's kind of invaluable data to say, okay, we should be selling this together as a kit or a bundle. Kits and bundles are kind of what helps us take up more Amazon real estate space, and creating virtual bundles such as these things with proven data is really invaluable.
Definitely. So is there anything on that, and we're talking about ROAS and advertising and profitability, and bundles I think attack that really well. Is there anything else on the advertising side that you all are seeing to be really insightful?
Yeah, what we're definitely seeing through a lot of data is a lot of repeat buyers, not only you'll get them definitely on your Shopify, but in particular on Amazon. The repeat buyers that come in and purchase, same or like items over and over again. I think that generally gets really overlooked when we're talking, average cost of sale or total average cost of sale. And I think that really needs to be factored in to when you're looking at your customer acquisition and those costs, thinking about that lifetime value of the customer, particularly on Amazon. I think that gets overlooked.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
are you baking in the LTV as part of your ACOS when you're doing the analysis to figure out how much you're going to spend?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. Once we have that data, we can go back in and obviously adjust those ACOS to accommodate for the lifetime value.
Very cool. So for anyone who isn't familiar with, I think everyone will be familiar with LTV. For more of ACOS, do you mind just quickly breaking down what that is and how it differs from ROAS?
Yeah, sure. So, ACOS and ROAS are virtually the same thing. It's just data broken out in two different ways. ACOS stands for average cost of sale. And that's basically, if I put $20 into, or if I put $100 into ads, my ACOS is a percentage of what I've spent. So again, sorry, let me rephrase that. If I put $20 into ads and I get $100 in sales, that's a 20% average cost of sale. ROAS is factored a little bit differently, whereas it's kind of, what are my earnings on spend? So again, taking that same model, if you spend $20 on Amazon and you get $100 in sales, that's it's 5 ROAS. And gosh, I'm losing what the ROAS acronym is. Chad,
Return on ad spend?
Return on ad spend. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So also I think it's a really interesting way of looking at it, because it's also going back to that same concept of what you actually keep off of platform sales. So Chad, I'm going to throw it to you. How do you typically see other brands working with all the marketplace data to get to this really granular analysis of how we can really make the most of both ACOS and LTV to build a healthy, long-term sustainable business?
So, okay, so there's a lot to that. I would say so Skubana, like I said, we're an operations platform. We do have profitability diagnostics, and then Dacity just takes it to a whole nother level, right? If you want to like double click into and go super deep, that's where Dacity comes in. Speaking specifically around Skubana, and I do want to get to the Dacity value prop as well. In Skubana, since we are order management and inventory combined in one platform, right? Where we can do FBA orders, you can print shipping labels, you can connect to your 3PL. Skubana takes the shipping costs and the commission fees and all of that and baits it in so you can see your SKU profitability, which to me is like the holy grail of where e-commerce merchants and brands, what they want to see. And that SKU profitability essentially will say, hey, here for a date range, here's my total profit of the company. And then we'll break it down on a SKU level, and then you can break it down on a channel level and then break it down and peel that onion back again and see the orders that are contributing as a contribution margin to your overall profit. And that's a huge paradigm shift from when you look at something like QuickBooks or NetSuite, because QuickBooks or NetSuite, they say, here's your revenue, here's your expenses, here's your profit. And you're like, well, how did you get to that profit? It's really hard to actually drill down and double click in that software because it's not purpose built for commerce. They didn't, when they built those softwares, there was no sense of a marketplace or of Shopify. And so that's really where the benefit to me and where Skubana comes in. And so you take all that channel data and now funnel it into Dacity, which is purpose built for analytics, and it opens up lifetime value, repeat customer information, your the LTV information to inform ACOS, so you can actually run your business much more smarter and have a competitive advantage, which majority of sellers don't have.
Yeah, there's so many things that I love in there, especially contribution margin on a SKU basis. I know this is a big thing that you talk about a lot, and I think I agree. It's something that more brands need to focus on, because you can, if you don't know what your contribution is, you're really great at moving product. You might not be really great at making a lot of money. And I think there's an interesting distinction there.
And to just piggyback on that for a second, when, let's just say, a marketplace Valet or my own business is looking to sunset a product, you may not want to sunset the entire product across every channel, right? You may want to sunset it because Walmart gives you more profit, or selling on the Target marketplace is far more profitable, or Home Depot, than Amazon is, or vice versa. So you can start picking and choosing where you want to double down on those winners and where you want to sunset those losers that are on specific channels that you sell on.
Yeah, and understanding that distinction is really well. So Will, I want to throw it back to you. What are some of the best practices that you all have seen, or tips that you would recommend based on running this now for all of the brands in your portfolio?
So I guess, again, the cross-selling aspect, we talked about that, the looking at your lifetime value of the customers, we looked at that. Sorry, repeat that, Jeremy, one more time.
Yeah. So where else do you just see like real opportunities for growth, or maybe some tips, recommendations that
right.
you give to other brands?
Yeah. So, one thing that we're really honing in on in 2021 is marketplace expansion. I think I mentioned earlier, we're on 17 Amazon sites internationally. And, that's kind of where we're making some big moves is, okay, we've conquered Amazon. That's great. Now, how do we replicate that on multiple marketplaces? I'm always been a big believer in diversification of revenue, and by expanding to the Middle East and to South America, and to the Wayfarers and the Targets, keep the brand building in all directions, because Amazon's going to be around for a while, but there's going to be a lot of complements to it along the way. And I always say, maybe at the end of the day, sales don't look great for a particular marketplace, but you look at it at the end of the year on your P&L, and it stacks up really quickly. So I'm in for marketplace expansion big time.
Nice. I like the conquer the world mentality behind that. Something's working. Let's get it into as many markets as possible. So Chad, where do you think some other opportunities are to either unlock more data or just unearth some of those more important insights that you all are finding across the platform that you think more brands should really rally to?
Sorry, I was on mute. Rookie mistake on Zoom. So Skubana was started as a direct consumer platform, and that's sort of why we've been such a beneficiary, as there's been a shift of spend from offline retail to online retail. But I don't think offline retail is dead in any way. And there's a lot of channels for acquisition that aren't being leveraged right now, just given the state of the world. And I think when things do open back up, so it's not just, I do think marketplace expansion, SKU expansion is very important. But I think having a platform like Skubana that allows you to go direct to everywhere, which is actually a trademarked word that we use, going direct to everywhere versus just direct to consumer is going to be still the way forward, no matter, post-pandemic world, what it looks like. And so whether it's a pop-up shop, whether it's doing joint collaborations with adjacent brands that have very adjacent demographics that you target as a company, I think that's going to be really interesting in 2021, along with marketplace expansion, along with finding adjacent products that you want to add to your portfolio and using that information that you're pulling from Dacity, for example, which is the virtual bundles, right? Figuring out if a person buys hand sanitizer and they're buying this at the same time. I'm not saying that this is a great example, but pairing it together and using that information to inform your digital shelf assortment.
Yeah, definitely. More effectively, you can turn the inventory. The more you sell, the more you can conquer the world. So where I'd love to is kind of pivot it to the other side of the conversation now. So it sounds like we were talking about a lot of the great opportunities. Will, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first. What would you say is a lesson learned, or maybe something that didn't really pan out when you all started this project, that if someone was going to follow in your footsteps, you would recommend, like, hey, walk down this path instead?
Yeah, this is kind of a fun topic because I think when we talk big picture, I think keep in mind that a lot of that picture is outside the frame, and all people are looking at the frame. So when you're going to build something, no matter what it is, keep it open-ended on all sides, because you never know what's going to present itself, whether it's development and software, whether it's strategy, whether it's integrations. Your big picture is unforeseeable, and just making sure you have a lot of open ends on whatever project you're working on.
Yeah, there's always the stuff that you don't know. So
That's right.
Having that mindset's always great. Chad, anything on your side, anything you would recommend as kind of some hard fought lessons that other merchants have won, or avoid things that people could avoid?
This is a really important question for me. I've been working on a presentation, which is like my 7 failures that have made me a better brand and merchant. And so if you think about the world before COVID, I didn't even know what to do with my e-commerce business. I was so focused on Skubana, and our numbers were just going down and to the right. And so I've done a lot of reflection on how we could have changed 2019, and 2020 was actually our best year we've ever had in the company history. And part of that was, I think, very important, being data oriented. And I think we got away from that. Like, we were so focused on growing top line revenue, right? And we were like, you know what? We own the space. We own the replacement accessory space. Let's just go all in on ACOS. And we thought that everyone would just drop out because we were going to increase the spend so much, and they didn't actually drop out. They just increased spend, and it became sort of like a pissing contest almost. And so we started really getting focused on a very granular level from an ACOS perspective. That's just like one small example that we did. Another really interesting example that we did in 2020, which we benefited from, was with COVID and with personal protection equipment, we started selling vacuum bags, and I didn't know why they were flying off the shelf. And these HEPA bags could be used and repurposed as masks. So what did I do? I made a donation in Rockland County, which is where I live part of the time in New York, to the hospital. It got national press, and a company called Headley and Bennett reached out to me to actually start combining forces, and they were selling masks. They repivoted their factory to make masks. We repivoted to supply them filter personal protection equipment with our vacuum bags that we actually individually cut here in the United States. And it reopened an entirely new opportunity that never existed before. So we just got smart, and it all happened while I was in the shower. And that's where all great stuff begins. And
Absolutely.
So if you're struggling right now, like, every moment is a chance to turn it all around. And that's what happened for us in 2020.
Very cool. So it sounds like the piece of advice
awesome.
there is take more showers.
Which I feel like a lot of people are not doing in 2020.
But it's a combination of taking more showers, being much more data driven than your competition, like getting scientific about it to the penny. That's big, right? Being innovative and using data that you can get at your fingertips. Amazon is a database of information, of reviews, of what people frequently bought together. People aren't using this data and informing their business decisions. And there's ways that you can be using this and getting creative to actually like optimize your revenue and profitability that I think is untapped.
Definitely. I mean, I'll always agree. There's always more to do with your data. So kind of in wrapping up, the last question and what we want to leave everybody with is final nugget of wisdom, final piece of info that you want to impart. So Chad, I'll throw it back to you this time, put you on the hot seat first. What's that kind of one final thing that you want to leave everybody with?
I feel like I shared it already, which is I think is doing what your competition isn't doing. And a lot of that comes down to data. I think part of it also is automation, which we didn't really talk about much right now, but I've been a huge fan of, right? I run a very large e-commerce business. I have one employee running it, and largely we let technology do what human employees can't do, which is automating purchase orders based on warehouses and based on velocity across the channels. And so if you're trying to have a new renewed focus, and it's beyond just not accepting mediocrity in 2021, it should be focused on data and should be focused on how the heck you can automate and replace yourself so you can work on higher impact activities.
Cool. Sounds like we got to grab some more time to talk about automation, which, Will, I'm sure you all are doing a lot of too. So, Will, final part of wisdom to bring us home.
Yeah, shoot, I'd love to piggyback on what Chad was saying. I mean, automation, removing manual processes. I mean, that stuff just bears you down. Anything that is being worked on by a human, unfortunately, can be automated, and making that push so that that on a human level, we're able to spend those times, making those more key decisions, and really judging, based off of what humans do, right? So that, and kind of going on the left, here, what does, everyone's been so focused on, what's happening during COVID, and how do we, use the market to our benefit. And, I think keeping in mind that, this will, end in some way, in the next 9, 12, 14 months. And what does that look like? I think there's going to be a lot of online retail fatigue. People are going to want to get out and see people experience the shopping again. And it's just one of those things that everyone should be very conscious of. And how do we build our business and maintain it around, post-COVID times? So
Definitely. I think there's a lot of, sounds like a lot of planning and being prepared for an unknown future that everyone's going to take away from this episode.
Oh, man.
We really appreciate the time. Thank you both. We're so excited you could join us today.